In the cold darkness of space, where no sound could travel, something massive moved through the void. The stars around it dimmed for a moment as a shadow passed by. The scanners of hundreds of alien satellites began to flicker, confused and frightened. They had never seen anything like it before. A single enormous warship had entered orbit above the world of Zilara, a planet filled with kingdoms, armies, and pride. No one knew where it came from. No one had ever seen this kind of metal or design. Its hull was dark silver, covered in glowing lines like veins of light. It did not send any greeting. It did not show any flag. It simply appeared, silent and still, yet so powerful that every sensor trembled when it scanned it. Inside the royal palace of Zilara, alarms echoed through long halls. Kings and commanders rushed into war rooms, their faces pale. The oldest scholars whispered in fear. They checked ancient records, searching for a match, but nothing came close. The ship was unknown, unrecorded, and unstoppable. Who commands it? One general shouted. Not one of the known empires, replied the chief scientist. Its energy signature is ... strange. It is old, but advanced. More advanced than the council itself? Then, one of the screens flashed. A faint signal had been detected from the ship. The translation drones struggled, their processors heating under the strain. One word finally appeared on the screen. AARTH. The room went silent. No one spoke. For centuries, Earth had been nothing more than a forgotten name, a destroyed world from the early wars. The old stories said humans had been weak, scattered, and crushed long ago. But now, a warship carrying their name had arrived. The kings of Zilara stared at one another, unsure whether to laugh or tremble. It can't be real, whispered one. Earth was dead. Then what is this? Asked another. A ghost? The warship drifted closer to the planet, slow and deliberate, like a predator circling its prey. Its weapons were visible, now massive cannons the size of towers, glowing cores pulsing like hearts. Every defense system on Zilara activated automatically, pointing upward. But no one dared to fire. Across the galaxy, the arrival was noticed. On faraway worlds, other kingdoms received the signal too. Reports spread through hyperspace channels an Earth warship had returned. Panic began to ripple across star systems. Some rulers remembered the old wars, the time when Earth had resisted the great empires. They had thought humanity extinct. If this ship was real, it meant humanity had survived and grown stronger. Back on Zilara, a voice broke through the static. It was not loud, but it carried a weight that pressed against every mind that heard it. We come for justice. The voice was human, calm, and cold. No demands were made. No threats. Only that one sentence. Yet it felt like a judgment. The kings gathered in the council hall, arguing in panic. Some wanted to send a peace message. Others wanted to launch an attack before the ship could strike. But deep down, all of them felt the same fear. What justice do they seek? Asked the youngest king. An old scholar stepped forward, his voice shaking. Long ago, when our ancestors conquered the outer colonies, they destroyed a world named Earth. They took survivors as slaves. They burned the skies and salted the oceans. We erased them from history. The room fell into heavy silence. Now the past had returned, flying above their heads. On the planet's surface, people looked up at the sky and saw a dark star blocking the sun. Children asked what it was. Their parents had no answer. The warship remained motionless. Days passed, but it never moved, never spoke again. It only watched in orbit. Smaller alien fleets began to gather, forming a ring around the massive ship. Thousands of vessels, each armed and ready, but even together they felt small beside it. Their scanners could not measure its shields. Their weapons could not lock onto it. Every time they tried, their systems crashed. Inside the warship, humans watched the fleets assemble. Their faces were calm. For them, this was not war. This was remembrance. They had waited generations for this moment. Their ancestors had died under alien rule. Now their descendants stood ready to reclaim their honor. Still, they did not fire. They waited. In the capital city of Zalara, panic grew. Markets closed. Armies took positions. The king sent urgent messages to neighboring kingdoms, asking for advice, for help, for mercy. But the answer was always the same. No one dared approach the ship. On the third day, a new signal pulsed from the warship. This time, every system on the planet received it at once. The message was simple: return what you took, or be judged. The words echoed in every language, in every mind. The meaning was clear. Humanity had come to collect what was stolen: lives, land, and honor. The kings fell into despair. They remembered the human slaves hidden in their mines, their factories, their armies. They had treated them as property for centuries. Now the owners of those souls had come back. Across the planet, whispers spread. The humans are coming. The old ones have returned. On the warship's bridge, the commander watched the world below. Her eyes were cold, her voice steady. They remember us only in fear, she said. Good. Let them understand what they created. Her crew nodded in silence. They were not here for glory or conquest. They were here to remind the galaxy of one truth: humanity endures. As the planet turned beneath them, lightning storms broke across its skies, like the world itself trembling. The kingdoms that once ruled proudly now hid in their fortresses, praying to gods that would not answer. Above them, Earth's warship waited, silent and unblinking. Like a judge watching the guilty before the sentence, the galaxy held its breath in the grand halls of the Zelaron Council. Fear settled like a heavy fog. The kings of the 5 kingdoms sat around a glowing table, their faces pale, their voices trembling. None of them had slept since the strange warship appeared in orbit. Every hour, its silent shadow crossed their skies, and every hour, their panic grew stronger. King Dareth, the oldest among them, slammed his fist on the table. We must act before it strikes. It is only one ship. We have Fleet Sarma's defenses stronger than any world. His words sounded brave, but his voice shook. King Arian, younger and sharper, leaned forward. Do you really believe that? Our fleets couldn't even lock onto it. Our scanners can't read its armor. You saw what happened when we tried to scan deeper. The systems overheated. Dareth glared. So you want to sit and wait for death? Before anyone could reply, the chamber's doors opened. A messenger stumbled inside, breathless and pale. My kings, he gasped. We have received transmissions from the neighboring worlds. They all report the same thing. The ship. It has sent the same message to them too. The council froze. What message? Orion demanded. The messenger swallowed hard. Return what you took, or be judged. A cold silence filled the room. Every man there knew what it meant. Centuries ago, when the galaxy's great war burned across the stars, Earth had resisted. The kingdoms of Zalara, along with other empires, had united to crush the humans. They had destroyed their home, scattered the survivors, taken their people as slaves. The old stories had faded into myth, told only in whispers until now. King Sareth, the youngest, spoke quietly. My grandfather told me once that the humans swore they would return, that one day the stars would burn again in their name. They were weak, Dareth muttered. Primitive. They could not build a ship like that. Then who did? Orion snapped. You saw the translation? That ship is Earth's. The council chamber began to shake as if in answer. A deep rumble echoed across the sky. The kings rushed to the window. Above the clouds, the warship had moved. For the first time since its arrival, it shifted in orbit, turning its massive wall until its weapons pointed directly at the planet's capital. Panic spread through the streets below. Citizens screamed and ran for cover. Soldiers scrambled into formation, unsure whether to defend or surrender. In the royal tower, priests began chanting, praying to ancient gods, begging for protection. But no answer came. A single beam of blue light shot down from the ship, hitting the center of the capital square. It did not explode. It formed into a tall holographic figure, a woman in silver armor, her eyes glowing like stars. Her voice echoed across the city, reaching every speaker, every screen, every ear. "We are the children of Earth," she said. "We have crossed the dark between worlds to claim what was stolen. You took our people. You burned our skies. You thought we would vanish. You were wrong." The kings fell to their knees, stunned. The hologram continued, calm and final. "You have 3 cycles to return every human life you hold. 3 cycles to answer for your crimes. After that, there will be no mercy." The light faded, and the figure vanished. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Orion whispered, 3 cycles. That's 3 days. Dareth slammed his fist again. "We cannot give them everything. Our minds, our workers, our soldiers, our entire system runs on them." Sareth's eyes were wide with fear. "If we refuse, they will destroy us." "They wouldn't dare," Dareth shouted, though even he didn't believe it. Meanwhile, across the planet, whispers spread faster than fire. The humans have come back. The humans have returned. In slave camps and mines, men and women looked up at the sky with tears in their eyes. For generations they had been told their home was gone, that Earth was ash and dust. But now, above them, hope shone like a burning star. On the warship, the human commander watched the chaos unfold. Reports came in from her officers' panic in the cities, silence from the fleets, fear in every voice. She stood tall, her eyes fixed on the planet below. "They are afraid." Her second-in-command said quietly. "They should be," she replied. "This world fed on our suffering for centuries. But we will not destroy it yet. We will give them a chance to make it right. And if they don't..." The commander turned away from the window. "Then we remind the galaxy what Earth became." Back on Zalara, the kings argued through the night. Some demanded surrender. Others spoke of war. But every time they looked up at the stars and saw the silent giant above, their courage faded. In the slave camps, humans whispered prayers of gratitude. Some wept openly, clutching the sky as if they could touch the ship. For the first time in their lives, they felt something they had never known: hope. The countdown had begun. 3 days until judgment. 3 days until the galaxy learned what it meant to challenge Earth. The sun rose weakly over Zalara. But no one saw its light with joy. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Every screen across the planet displayed a single timer, counting down from 3 cycles. The warship above remained motionless, a silent mountain of metal hanging in the sky. But its presence pressed on every heart like the weight of a storm. In the royal palace, the council gathered once more. No one argued now. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow from sleepless nights. The silence was heavy. King Orion finally spoke. "The ship gave us a choice. We must return the humans." Dareth clenched his fists. "Do you know what that means? Our minds will collapse. Our armies will weaken. Our economy will fall. Would you rather the planet burn?" Orion asked quietly. "You saw what they did to the fleet at the edge of the system. It vanished without a sound. 300 ships, gone in one flash of light." The memory sent a shiver through the room. The kingdoms had sent a small fleet to test the warship's strength. They had never returned. Only a silent void remained where they once stood. King Sarath leaned forward, his voice trembling. "Maybe they will accept tribute instead? Gold, resources, technology?" "No," Arian interrupted. "Their message was clear. They want their people." The old scholar stepped into the light. His voice was soft, but it carried truth. "You cannot buy forgiveness from ghosts." Outside, the planet stirred with unrest. In the cities, alien citizens gathered in crowds, demanding answers. In the mines and camps, the human slaves whispered to one another, voices filled with wonder and disbelief. "They came back for us." "What?" one old miner said, staring up at the glowing star in the sky. "They didn't forget. For generations, they had lived as tools, beaten, nameless, told that their world was gone forever. But now, above them, a promise had returned." As the second cycle began, the warship spoke again. Its voice echoed across every communication channel. "You have taken much from us: worlds, lives, names, but we are patient. We give you one more day. Show us your truth, the message ended, leaving silence heavier than before. In desperation, the council sent envoys to the ship. Small crafts carried offerings, crystals, gold, weapons, technology, but when they reached orbit, the warship did not respond. The offerings drifted away, ignored, on the bridge of the ship. The human commander stood before a wide window, watching the planet below. Her crew waited for her orders, but she said nothing for a long time. Finally, she spoke softly. They still think this is about trade. They don't understand. This is about justice. Her second-in-command nodded. We have detected human life signatures across the surface. Millions of them. Most in slave camps. The commander closed her eyes. Prepare the dropships, but hold position. We give them their last chance. Back on Zalara, panic turned to chaos. Some kingdoms began releasing human captives in secret, hoping to show goodwill. Others refused, believing it a sign of weakness. Soldiers marched through cities, suppressing riots, but their hearts were unsteady. Many of them had worked beside human slaves all their lives. Some now wondered if the humans were truly lesser, or simply victims. That night, King Arion walked alone through the royal courtyard. He looked up at the dark sky and saw the ship gleaming faintly among the stars. "What do you want from us?" he whispered. A voice answered not from the sky, but from behind him. One of his servants, a thin human with gray eyes, knelt before him. "They want what was taken," the servant said softly. "Their people. Their home." "Their name?" Brian stared at the man, realizing for the first time that he had never asked his name. "What is it?" Orion asked quietly. The man looked up. "Elias." The king nodded slowly. "You will see your home again, Elias. I swear it." In that moment, Orion understood the truth. They could not fight this war. They had already lost it the day they chose cruelty over mercy. When dawn came, the council met for the final time. Their decision was clear. They would release every human captive and send a plea for forgiveness. But not every ruler agreed. In the northern kingdom of Vareth, the warlord Kor refused to surrender. He declared humans property and ordered his armies to prepare for battle. He believed the stories of Earth were myths, that no single ship could defeat his fleets. As his ships rose into the sky, the warship above turned. On the bridge, the human commander gave a single order: "Show them." A blinding light erupted from the ship, silent and pure. In a heartbeat, the entire Varethian fleet vanished, leaving only drifting ash. No explosion, no wreckage, just emptiness. Across the world, billions watched the sky and fell silent. Every ruler, every soldier, every child understood now. Earth's power was real in the quiet that followed. The warship spoke one last time before the final day began. "We did not come to conquer. We came to remember, and to make you remember too." The countdown continued. One day remained. The galaxy waited for Earth's judgment. The final day began under a sky that felt too heavy, too silent. Even the winds seemed to hold their breath. Across Zalara, every screen still showed the same message, the countdown reaching its last hours. No one dared to look away. In the royal capital, the streets were nearly empty. Shops were closed. Soldiers stood at every corner, their armor gleaming but their eyes uncertain. Above them, Earth's warship hung like a shadowed sun, silent yet more terrifying than any army. Its massive hull blocked part of the sky, and wherever its shadow passed, fear followed. Inside the royal palace, the kings gathered one last time. Their voices were tired, their hope thin. King Orion spoke first, his voice quiet but firm. "The kingdom of Vareth is gone. Their fleets, their armies, their cities erased in one breath. There is no victory to be found in defiance." The others said nothing. They all had seen the sky turn white when the Varathian ships vanished. No explosion, no debris, a light that erased everything. King Dareth finally sighed. "Then we surrender. We give them the humans. Every last one." The old scholar nodded slowly. It is the only way. They are not here to trade or to conquer. They are here to end what we began. Across the planet, orders were sent. Gates to the mines opened. Chains were unlocked. For the first time in generations, the humans stepped into the sunlight without guards or whips. Many did not believe it was real. They waited for shouts, for punishment, but none came. In the capital square, a massive crowd gathered. Thousands of humans stood together, their faces filled with confusion and hope. For so long, they had been nothing but tools. Now the sky itself had come for them. High above, aboard the warship, the human commander watched the scene through a wide viewport. Her eyes were calm, but her hands tightened behind her back. They are releasing them, her officer reported. Almost all of them. Some worlds still hide a few, but most are complying. The commander nodded. Prepare the descent. Moments later, the warship stirred. Its engines hummed with a low, deep sound that echoed across the planet. Every living being felt it in their bones. Then, from the underbelly of the ship, dozens of smaller vessels detached, sleek dropships gliding through the clouds like silver arrows. On the ground, the people watched in silence as the dropships descended, landing softly in the open fields outside the capital. Ramps opened, and figures stepped out, humans in black and silver armor, their banners carrying a single symbol, the blue and white sphere of Earth. The crowd gasped. The freed humans fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces. Some whispered prayers. Others shouted names of ancestors long dead. They had been waiting for this moment for generations. The armored soldiers moved among them, scanning, organizing, comforting. They spoke in gentle tones, calling the freed by name, as if they already knew each one. In the palace, the kings watched through the windows. Orion turned to the others. We must face them. We must ask for forgiveness. Together, they walked out into the open square, their royal guards lowering their weapons. The human commander was waiting there, surrounded by her soldiers. Her armor shone under the pale light, her face calm and unreadable. King Orion bowed deeply. We surrender, he said. We have released your people. We will return all that was taken. We beg you, spare our world. The commander studied him for a long moment. You speak now because you fear our power. But where was your voice when our people cried out in chains? Orion lowered his head. We were blind and proud, but no longer. The commander stepped forward, her boots silent against the stone. You cannot erase what you have done, but you can change what you will do next. She looked around at the freed humans. They will not be slaves again. They will decide their own future, and your kingdoms will answer to them. The kings nodded, too afraid to argue. A deep rumble echoed through the clouds again, and more ships appeared in the sky, transports, carriers, escorts. They filled the heavens, blotting out the sun. The entire world seemed to tremble beneath their presence. This is not just for Zalara, the commander said quietly. Every world that took from us will face the same choice: repent or be erased. Her words spread through the planet's networks, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. In distant systems, rulers trembled as they watched. The message was clear. Earth had returned, and no empire could hide. Back in the square, the freed humans stood tall, their chains lying broken at their feet. Some began to sing an old Earth song, one carried through stories and memory. The melody rose into the air like a prayer. The alien citizens watched in silence. Many had never heard such a sound. For the first time, they felt something unfamiliar: shame. The commander turned to her crew. Begin the evacuation. Every human who wishes to leave will come with us. Those who stay will build new lives under our protection. As the dropships lifted off, carrying thousands toward the waiting warship, the kings watched helplessly. Their world was spared, but forever changed. High above, the warship glowed brighter, its engines humming with quiet power. In the void beyond, messages raced across the stars: warnings, confessions, pleas for mercy. Earth's return was no longer a secret. It was a storm, sweeping across the galaxy. And every kingdom knew the age of arrogance was over. The humans had come home, the sky above. Solara glowed with the light of Earth's fleet, a sea of silver warships stretching across the heavens like a second horizon. The great vessel that had first arrived, the flagship Erebus, remained still, watching as its dropships carried thousands of freed humans upward, away from the planet that had once enslaved them. In the cities below, silence ruled. No music, no laughter, no sound of pride, only the quiet hum of fear and awe. The kingdoms that once held their banners high now lowered them in shame. Their palaces felt hollow, their thrones heavy. Inside the royal hall, King Orion stood by the window, staring at the ships above. He had once believed his kingdom invincible, his people blessed by the stars. Now he saw the truth: they had built their strength on stolen lives. The council met again, not to plan war, but to face judgment. King Dareth sat in silence, his hands trembling. "They are taking them all," he whispered. "Every human from every corner, our mines, our factories. They are empty now." Ryan nodded slowly. "It is what we deserve." An advisor entered, bowing deeply. "My kings," he said, "a message has arrived. The commander of Earth requests your presence at the landing site." The rulers exchanged nervous glances but obeyed. Surrounded by their guards, they rode through silent streets to the open plains where Earth's soldiers stood. There, the shadow of a massive transport ship, the human commander waited. Her armor gleamed with faint blue light, her expression calm but unyielding. Around her stood hundreds of soldiers, silent and watchful. The kings bowed. "We have done as you commanded," Orion said quietly. "We released them all. We have nothing left to hide." The commander studied them, her eyes cold and steady. "You took more than bodies. You took generations. You buried our names, erased our history, and called us extinct. Yet here we stand." King Dareth fell to his knees. "We beg you, do not destroy us. We will change. We will rebuild what we broke." The commander stepped closer. "You cannot rebuild what you never understood, but you can learn." She gestured toward the horizon, where freed humans were boarding ships, their faces filled with hope. "They will go where you cannot follow. They will heal in the stars, far from your chains." Orion swallowed hard. "Will they ever return?" Perhaps the commander said. "But when they do, it will not be as slaves. It will be as equals or rulers." A deep vibration shook the ground as more ships rose from the fields, carrying away the last of the freed. The sound echoed like thunder, rolling across the land. The commander turned her gaze to the sky. "You once believed Earth was weak. You thought time would erase us. But humanity does not fade, endures. It remembers, and it returns." She looked back at the kings. "Your punishment is not fire. It is memory. You will live knowing what you have done, and what we became without you." The kings bowed deeply, tears in their eyes. Without another word, the commander walked toward her ship. Her soldiers followed, their steps steady, their banners fluttering in the wind. As the ramp closed behind them, engines roared to life, and the great ship lifted into the air. The people of Zilara watched in silence as Earth's fleet rose higher and higher, until the sky became filled with their light. Then, one by one, the ships vanished into the void, leaving only the empty heavens behind. In the quiet that followed, Orion spoke softly. "We saw gods today, and they were human." The old scholar nodded beside him. "No, they were us. What we could have been if we had chosen honor over pride." The kings returned to their cities, humbled and silent. Across the planet, statues of victory were torn down, replaced by monuments of remembrance. The name Earth was carved into stone in every capital, not as a warning, but as a vow. High above, far beyond the stars, the Erebus led its fleet through the void. On its bridge, the commander watched the shrinking light of Zilara fade behind them. Her officer approached. "It's done," he said. "They've surrendered. The freed are safe." The commander nodded. "One world down. Many still to come." She turned her gaze forward, where distant stars shimmered. Somewhere out there, more human slaves, weighted, forgotten, broken, hoping for rescue. The Erebus engines flared brighter. "Set course," she ordered. "We are not finished." And as the fleet vanished into the dark, the galaxy trembled once more because Earth had returned. And it would not stop until every last one of its children was free. Across the stars, word of Earth's return spread like wildfire. From one empire to the next, the message echoed, "The humans have come back." Worlds that once scoffed at the name Earth now whispered it with fear. Rulers held secret meetings, wondering if they would be next. Planets that had never seen a human now searched their histories in panic, terrified they might have wronged the forgotten world. On Zalara, the sky was quiet again, but the silence no longer felt peaceful. It felt heavy like the calm after a storm that had changed everything. The humans were gone, but their presence lingered in every corner in the capital. King Orion walked through the empty labor camps. The iron gates hung open, the chains lay broken on the ground. He looked around the silent yards and saw what he had ignored for years, the marks on the walls where humans had counted days. The old carvings of stars and a blue world they called home. He knelt beside one wall and traced the drawing with his fingers, a child's handprint beside a crude picture of Earth. "We never saw them as people," he whispered, "but they never forgot who they were." His advisor stepped forward quietly. "The council has met. They want to rebuild the mines, restore order." Orion shook his head. "No, we will not rebuild the chains. We will rebuild our honor." He rose and turned toward the city. "The age of slavery is over. From this day forward, no being will live as property under our sky." Word spread quickly. Across the planet, statues of kings were torn down, replaced with monuments to those who had suffered. In the center of the capital, they raised a single pillar of silver, engraved with 2 words, "We remember." But not all kingdoms accepted the change. On distant worlds, powerful rulers gathered fleets, whispering of revenge. Some claimed Earth's fleet was a myth, a trick to frighten them into surrender. Others planned to strike first before the humans returned. They did not wait long. From the void, the Erebus appeared again, its shadow falling over a war-torn moon. Behind it came the rest of Earth's armada, hundreds of ships, silent and gleaming, their presence like a new dawn. On the bridge, the commander studied the battlefield below, armies clashing, prisoners screaming, smoke rising into space. Her eyes hardened. "They still haven't learned," her second-in-command nodded. "Orders." The commander raised a hand. "End it." Beams of white light cut through the darkness, not with fury, but precision. The fighting stopped instantly. Engines failed, weapons turned to dust, and every soldier dropped to their knees in shock. A message echoed through every frequency, clear and steady. "We are not conquerors. We are witnesses. We are the voice of those you silenced. The age of cruelty is over. The age of justice has begun." The fleets of the alien lords surrendered without a fight. Their rulers, trembling, sent messages begging for peace, offering tribute, pledging loyalty to Earth's new alliance. One by one, the stars began to change. Where once banners of conquest flew, now symbols of unity were raised. On every world that had enslaved humanity, the freed were given homes, names, and choice. They built new cities, not as subjects, but as equals. In orbit above a liberated world, the commander stood at the viewport watching the sunrise. "Do you think they'll ever forgive us?" her officer asked quietly. She shook her head. "Forgiveness isn't what we came for. We came to remind the galaxy that Earth remembers. Always." Behind her, the fleet drifted silently through the stars, its engines burning with soft blue light, a beacon of hope and warning. On distant worlds, children began to learn the story, the fall of Earth, the rise of its survivors, and the day the forgotten came back to claim their destiny. Some would fear them, some would honor them, but none would ever forget them. Because in the end, humanity had proven the truth written in every star. You can break a world, but you cannot erase its will to return. The stars shimmered softly in the void as Earth's fleet drifted onward. its ships like silent sentinels in the dark. Their mission was not conquest, it was remembrance. Each world they passed trembled with the weight of their presence, for every empire now knew the humans had returned, and they carried with them the judgment of history. On Zalara, life began to change. The people who once ruled through fear now lived under the gaze of their own guilt. The mines were sealed, the whips thrown away. In the cities, new schools were built not to teach power, but to teach truth. Children sat in classrooms learning about the crimes of their ancestors, about the humans who had walked their lands as slaves, and the ship that came from the stars to end it all. King Orion visited the great monument every morning. The silver pillar stood tall in the center of the capital. Engraved with the words we remember, he often stood there alone, looking up at the sky where the warship had vanished, and whispered a quiet promise: "We will not forget, not ever again." But far above, on the flagship Erebus, the mission continued. Commander Rhea stood before the star map, surrounded by glowing markers H representing a world where humans had once been taken. Many were now free, but others still waited in chains, hidden by cruel empires that refused to yield. Her officer stepped forward, holding a data slate. "New intelligence from the Rim. There are still camps on the planet Vornak. Over 200,000 of our people working in the salt fields." Rhea's jaw tightened. "Then Vornak is next." She turned to the crew. "Prepare the fleet. We move at dawn." Engines flared to life, casting long trails of blue light across the void. The fleet turned, aligning itself with the distant star. To those who saw it, the sight was unforgettable. A shining armada of vengeance and hope, moving like a single heartbeat through space. On Vornak, news of the fleet's approach reached the ruling council. Panic spread quickly. Some argued to fight. Others demanded surrender. But it was too late. When the Erebus entered orbit, its shadow covered half the planet. No weapons were fired. No armies deployed. Only a single message echoed across every frequency: "The children of Earth have come. Release them, or face the silence of the void." The rulers of Vornak fell to their knees. The camps were open, the humans freed. As they stepped out into the light, they looked up and saw the fleet waiting for them, a vision from old stories, a promise fulfilled. Many wept. Some shouted the word home through tears. Hours later, thousands of dropships descended. The freed were welcomed aboard with open arms, given food, clothing, and names they had been denied for generations. On the main deck, Commander Rhea stood before them and spoke softly. "You are not forgotten. You never were. Earth remembers every soul." When the last of the captives was safe, the Erebus turned away from the planet. It did not destroy Vornak. It simply left behind a message carved into the soil with beams of light, one word visible from orbit: justice. In the following months, the galaxy changed. One by one, worlds surrendered their slaves, tore down their chains, and swore oaths of peace. Some did it from fear, others from understanding. But the result was the Sama New Order was born. They called it the Accord of Eartha, council where no species could enslave another, where memory was law and mercy was strength. And at the center of it all stood humanity. Not as rulers, but as guardians. Years later, stories spread through every star system of the ship that arrived when hope was gone, of the voice that spoke for the voiceless, of the people who returned from extinction to light the stars again. In every world that once held them captive, the same lesson was whispered to every child: never forget what the humans taught us. Strength is not cruelty. Power is not tyranny. And justice always returns. In the silent dark between stars, Earth's fleet sailed onward, watchful, patient, eternal. Because so long as one soul cried out in chains, humanity would answer. The galaxy would never forget the day. Earth's warship entered orbit and kingdoms fell to their knees. The stars shimmered softly in the void as Earth's fleet drifted onward, its ships like silent sentinels in the dark. Their mission was not conquest, it was remembrance. Each world they passed trembled with the weight of their presence, for every empire now knew the humans had returned, and they carried with them the judgment of history. On Zalara, life began to change. The people who once ruled through fear now lived under the gaze of their own guilt. The mines were sealed, the whips thrown away. In the cities, new schools were built not to teach power, but to teach truth. Children sat in classrooms learning about the crimes of their ancestors, about the humans who had walked their lands as slaves, and the ship that came from the stars to end it all. King Orion visited the great monument every morning. The silver pillar stood tall in the center of the capital. Engraved with the words we remember, he often stood there alone, looking up at the sky where the warship had vanished, and whispered a quiet promise: "We will not forget, not ever again." But far above, on the flagship Erebus, the mission continued. Commander Rhea stood before the star map, surrounded by glowing markers H representing a world where humans had once been taken. Many were now free, but others still waited in chains, hidden by cruel empires that refused to yield. Her officer stepped forward, holding a data slate. "New intelligence from the Rim. There are still camps on the planet Vornak. Over 200,000 of our people working in the salt fields." Rhea's jaw tightened. "Then Vornak is next." She turned to the crew. "Prepare the fleet. We move at dawn." Engines flared to life, casting long trails of blue light across the void. The fleet turned, aligning itself with the distant star. To those who saw it, the sight was unforgettable. A shining armada of vengeance and hope, moving like a single heartbeat through space. On Vornak, news of the fleet's approach reached the ruling council. Panic spread quickly. Some argued to fight. Others demanded surrender. But it was too late. When the Erebus entered orbit, its shadow covered half the planet. No weapons were fired. No armies deployed. Only a single message echoed across every frequency: "The children of Earth have come. Release them, or face the silence of the void." The rulers of Vornak fell to their knees. The camps were open, the humans freed. As they stepped out into the light, they looked up and saw the fleet waiting for them, a vision from old stories, a promise fulfilled. Many wept. Some shouted the word home through tears. Hours later, thousands of dropships descended. The freed were welcomed aboard with open arms, given food, clothing, and names they had been denied for generations. On the main deck, Commander Rhea stood before them and spoke softly. "You are not forgotten. You never were. Earth remembers every soul." When the last of the captives was safe, the Erebus turned away from the planet. It did not destroy Vornak. It simply left behind a message carved into the soil with beams of light, one word visible from orbit: justice. In the following months, the galaxy changed. One by one, worlds surrendered their slaves, tore down their chains, and swore oaths of peace. Some did it from fear, others from understanding. But the result was the Sama New Order was born. They called it the Accord of Eartha, council where no species could enslave another, where memory was law and mercy was strength. And at the center of it all stood humanity. Not as rulers, but as guardians. Years later, stories spread through every star system of the ship that arrived when hope was gone, of the voice that spoke for the voiceless, of the people who returned from extinction to light the stars again. In every world that once held them captive, the same lesson was whispered to every child: never forget what the humans taught us. Strength is not cruelty. Power is not tyranny. And justice always returns. In the silent dark between stars, Earth's fleet sailed onward, watchful, patient, eternal. Because so long as one soul cried out in chains, humanity would answer. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth's warship entered orbit and kingdoms fell to their knees.